Thank you, Chris. So good. Always good to know what people are most interested in, so we can focus in on that in the time that we've got left. So let's start with a very simple search then. So we looked at quick search in the slides that we had earlier, and now it may be, for example, that you're used to always going to advanced search, depending on your level of experience and how you want to build up a search. But there are some advantages to searching in quick search. If you want a very quick overview of the literature, or indeed there is a particular area of research that you would like to investigate and see what literature is available, and start building your search from there. So we did say, for example, that you are prompted in quick search, and here you'll see that I just typed in type, for example. So I'm looking for our type 2 diabetes mellitus here. Now I could have said non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, but depending on which term is more familiar to you, because of course all of these terms are included in Entry, which is supporting your search and particularly supporting the drop-down menu here, then we can select our type 2 diabetes mellitus. So this now is selected with our single quotes, which means it will be searched as a phrase, which is exactly what we want. The mapping is on here. Extensive search is on by default. The mapping is on, which means it is mapping back to the entry term, which means that the best search possible, that all the synonyms will also be included. The explosion search talks about the where this term appears in the tree structure, in the thesaurus structure. And if there are narrower terms, more specific terms for type 2 diabetes mellitus, then it will be included here. So type 2 diabetes mellitus is a narrower term for diabetes mellitus. So an explosion search on diabetes mellitus would include type 2 diabetes mellitus, and keyword includes any, we'll do a free text search to pick up any records that weren't indexed for one reason or another. So let's click on our search, and we come to our session results. And in session results, we then of course see our results here, which are rather large. So we would like to think about ways to maybe limit that particular search, but we could also investigate what we have already by, of course, taking a scan down through the articles themselves. You can click on abstract here and start reading the actual abstract. You'll see here is an in process record, which means that it is published but not yet fully indexed. So we add it at the earliest opportunity to Embase, and in parallel our indexers are fully indexing the article, and that in process article will be replaced by the fully indexed article as soon as it's available. You'll see that this is an Embase only article here, our first one, and here we see a Medline article, and if we go down a little bit we'll see different selections of articles. Here we see an overlapping Embase Medline article, so this is actually found in Medline as well, and a number of process records there too. So what about if we wanted to track the most up-to-date research around type 2 diabetes mellitus? What I've done here is gone to the filters on the left-hand side, and I'm going to click on conference abstract and filter, and I now have a considerably smaller set of results, but these results then are only looking at conference abstracts which have been automatically indexed with type 2 diabetes mellitus. So we do run our thesaurus over our conference abstracts, over the articles in press, over the in-process records. So there is, you then are able to use Entry over this content as well, and the fully indexing will then of course have the manual indexing, which adds more of the contextual indexing, such as the the subheadings which we mentioned earlier, so things like drug combination. We have our manual indexers look at that in particular. Okay, so we can get rid of that conference abstract as well if we wish, or we can edit this search if you wish as well. So you could, for example, click on edit, and you could add in, for example, and human, or whatever you might want to add there. I'm going to cancel this just now. Now, one thing that that didn't come up was the managing results, of course, but I would just like to stress, if this is something that you would like to track, then registering, if you haven't done that already, will enable you to track this as an email alert. So you can just very easily open up our registration form, enter a username and password, and from then on, every time you want to set up an email alert, just click on login, and I can log in just now, just to show you what that looks like if you haven't seen it before. And we log in like this, and then you'll see that I am now logged in. So logged in as Anne-Marie Roche, and I could now, using the menu associated with this particular search, you'll see that there's a number of things, like we saw edit, we saw copy back to advanced search, so you could go back there and choose some other limits for your search, and we'll look a little bit at that in a moment in more detail. And here you could set up the email alert. So if we just click on that very quickly, and you'll see that there are a number of options for when and how you'd like to receive that, and whether you'd like citations or not, and who else you would like to send this email alert to. Maybe there's a group of you who are tracking a particular area of research, and you can include those people here. Okay, so let's just cancel that for now. So that's a very simple example of using the quick search, using your filters, and how you could continue to track that particular search. But what about if we look now at something a little bit more complex? So we could, for example, incorporate entry here. So what about disease management studies for type 2 diabetes? So looking at a particular aspect of a disease. So let's go to entry and take a look at what we've been talking about. So if I type my diabetes in here very quickly, and I click on enter, I can see all the terms in entry, all the terms in our thesaurus, of which diabetes is mentioned. And I'm going to click on the diabetes mellitus here, and I now see the tree structure that I was talking about earlier. So you remember I mentioned explosion terms. So these in blue underneath diabetes mellitus are all the exploded terms. And we'll see, for example, our non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Okay, so I can click on this. Now, I know it is non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus that I'm looking for, and I can double check these synonyms. So if I'm more, like I said, more familiar, we see our type 2 here, for example. Now I could have typed type 2 diabetes into the entry search form, and it of course would have got me to this point even quicker, but I just wanted to let you see how the terms are organized and how you can use that organization in your search to make it very broad, or you can narrow your search down to specific terms. So coming to entry is a good idea if you really want to figure out how broad or how narrow you want to make your search. So searching for diabetes mellitus is a very different search, exploded, to searching and focusing in on non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So I've seen the synonyms. I've seen that this term exists in Embase, or in entry rather, and I see the synonyms that will be captured by searching for this particular term. And now I'd like to go a little bit further with it. So here I see my explosion. There are no narrower terms here for non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. If they were, then you would have the option to expand here. So this is the tip of the tree. so to speak. Major focus. Now this, we talked about having broad and then focusing on a particular term. Major focus is another way of focusing your results. So our indexers, when they are reading the articles, they will indicate term by term whether it is of major focus or mentioned focus in the article. So where the non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus is the main focus of the article, then they will assign major focus. And you then can use that to search for those major focus articles. So we always advise care, of course, with using major focus, or indeed using explosion. And understanding what they do to your search is very important, so you better understand the results and, of course, the answers that you're finding in the information. So let's leave major focus off for the moment, and I'm going to take this query to the disease search. And here we are, quickly and swiftly, hopefully, in the disease search. Okay, now you'll notice our tabs here at the top. I didn't point these out earlier, but we have our quick search that we looked at earlier. We have advanced, which has much the same features as the drug and the disease. The difference being with drug and disease is that you have these subheadings here. So these allow you to search for a particular context of a disease. So maybe, as we are in this case going to show, we're interested in disease management studies. So we're looking at how the disease is managed and what literature is available to published literature has been made available to outline the disease management of non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Now you'll see here we have our major focus again. The explosion is on as it was when we selected it in entry. You could also include your free text here, and mapping is automatic here. Okay, so it's always on in the disease search and the drug search. Okay, because in order to use the subheadings, then you need to use a thesaurus term. So if you think about how the indexers would link a subheading to a term, then of course they will only do that if the term is an entry term. So putting a non-entry term in here, or indeed a non-entry disease term in here, and trying to link it to a subheading, of course, won't work. So we do have an entry disease term here. We've selected a disease subheading, and we're going to click on search. And we have our second result. So here we see our second results. Now again, we can do some investigation here. So we could check out our drug filter, for example. Let's see what drugs. Now insulin is no great surprise in there. Oral anti-diabetic agent. We see some pioglitazone coming up, for example, the anti-diabetic agent. What else do we see here? Okay, so quite a range of drugs, and you'll see the numbers of times that they occur over the entire data set that you've retrieved. And of course you could filter, you can select any number of these and then add them to your search in that way. But this is a nice overview of the types of drugs that are either in there as part of managing the disease, for example, or in relation to the disease. So that's your drug, and of course, as we said before, you also have your other filters here, your disease, your study type, journal type, publication type, and publication year. Now study type might be interesting to take a look at. So if we click on here, now you'll see that 216 of these disease management studies our disease management articles are randomized controlled trials. So you have a level of evidence within those disease management articles that you found as well. Or indeed 196 are controlled clinical trials as well. So you can justify the findings in these articles by, of course, adding a layer of evidence. Okay. So that is, again, quite a straightforward search. We had a look at entry and what we could find in there. And we then took our search into our search form disease. We took a look at some of the options that we had there, and we added one of those options, a disease subheading, in this case disease management, and we created a second set of results. Now, we could take a look at our index terms here as well, which is another good way to figure out, well, what exactly is going on in this article. So indexers, and this is a fully indexed record because I don't see in process or anything else here. And we see it's from the Journal of Medical Economics. Now, you begin to get a feel based on what the indexers have found in the article for the terms that are important here. These bold terms mean major focus, which you can see when I run my cursor over the term. And you can see that endogenous compound was actually linked to hemoglobin A1C here. You can see the same with insulin. Now you can see there's an adverse drug reaction here as well. And here, of course, we see our disease management as well, which is highlighted as we would expect because it was part of our search. So that highlighting, of course, should be evident on the terms that you have used in your search. So index terms are a nice way to get a feel for the literature as well, and of course a good way to look at ideas for terms which you could add to your search. And I have to say, when I'm looking for ideas for creating search examples, then I will often do this, type in a disease, then start to look in the index terms to see what is in relation to that disease in the literature. And of course you have your full text. So if you have an open URL link resolver, then we can easily set that up for you, and you'll link directly to the full text that your institution is subscribed to. And over 90% of our articles have a full text link, so there's a good opportunity to link, and then of course it's based on your full text subscriptions. Now, I'm looking at the time, Chris. I think we have time for maybe one more search.
Yeah, we do have time for one more search, and then we have a couple of questions also.
Okay, super. All right. I am going to then take you through a combination search. So this time, we're sticking with our type 2 diabetes mellitus. We're getting very, very familiar with it now. And what I'd like to do is to look at the effectiveness of 2 drugs in the treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. So what we can do now is open up our drug search form. And the 2 drugs that I'm going to type in are sitagliptin and saxagliptin. And I'm going down to my drug subheading, so you'll notice that the options that we spoke about earlier. And I'm going to do a drug comparison. Okay, so I've selected my subheading, I've typed in my terms, I'm glancing down through my quick limits and my advanced limits, but I'm not going to use any of those today. I'm going to run my search first, and I'm going to see what that yields, and then I can think about copying back to the drug search if I need to add more refined limits. So let's click on search. And now I have my search. Now you will notice, of course, that You type in your terms in the drug search form and you select your subheadings, which is very nice. And then when you come to your session results, you may be faced with a search string that doesn't always make a lot of sense. And what this is, of course, is the syntax used in Embase. Now, we do add a lot of detail about the syntax in our help, and it is a good source of information for understanding your DD_CM, which in this case is drug subheading drug comparison. We have a full list of all of the drug subheadings in the help files and their definitions, because they are clearly defined by the indexers as to when they should be linked to a drug. And we also have the EXP, we have field limits explained, we have the operators explained. So do take a look in our help if you need further guidance with putting these searches together, and especially with understanding your search string. If you've created it in one of our search forms, clicked various options, and then come to your session results, and for example you may want to copy back to drug search, but you would need to understand the syntax to make changes, then help. Looking in the help files can certainly help you with that. So let's then go to our disease search, and we will type in our non-insulin dependent. It's quite I should have copied and pasted this, shouldn't I, from somewhere? Never mind. It's not the shortest term, is it? And we're going to put drug therapy here, okay? So we want to look at records where a specific drug has been used to treat non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, and of course we have saxagliptin and sitagliptin in mind here. So we click on search, and we have our set of results. Now what we can do is we have a little tick box beside our diabetes search and a tick box beside our sitagliptin and saxagliptin. We select both of those searches because we would like to combine them using the combine feature at the top of the screen. And here we have AND, which is what we want. We want to bring those results together, and we click on combine. And we have a very manageable set of 69 results. And if I take a look at some of those results, we'll see again, we see a mixture of quite a few of our Embase only articles coming up there, which is quite interesting. And if we have a look at those index terms, you'll see drug therapy coming up here. So we can see that when our indexers read this article, their understanding was that these number of drugs were used to treat non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And if we look at our up here, we can see in our drug comparison that we can see the exact drugs that were used, that were compared here. And in our saxagliptin, we can see metformin was compared in this particular case. So very easy to go to a number of search forms. You don't have to use subheadings, of course. You can search for sitagliptin and saxagliptin without the subheading, and you will, of course, get more results, which may be more interesting for you, and then combine with any number of diseases, any number of study types, any number of age groups, and refine your search in that way. But any number of searches that you build up, we do advise that you try to keep your searches quite small, and then when it comes to, when you have all of the searches that you want, you can combine them in any number of ways. We also have advanced here as well, so you can do a combination of and not, for example. So this is we feel a better way to manage those results. And of course, when it comes to editing those results, saving those results, when you save, then you can save with the steps. So we don't flatten the queries for saved searches. When you save your search, then you will see all of, and you go back into your saved searches by going here on saved searches, then you'll see all of those individual steps, and then you can edit them more easily and update them as you need to go along. So, Chris, shall we move to question time?
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie. We do have a couple of questions. We might have time for maybe just one or two. There was a question about exporting to RefWorks. Is that possible?
Yes, that is possible. So if I select 69 results here and I click on export, then you'll see that we have all of these options. So RefWorks is indeed there. We have the risk format options, reference manager, ProSite, Endnote, but RefWorks is indeed there. And then you will see that the fields that are exported to RefWorks clearly visible here as well.
Okay, thank you. And how about one more question? When are conference abstracts added to Embase, and how may I search for individual conferences?
Okay, so conference abstracts are added when they when we receive them. So they are part of the journal from that particular society, and once we receive the conference review and the conference abstracts, the conference supplement, then they are immediately added to Embase. So so they're added on an ongoing basis. And as I said, you can see on our info site, so that's embase.com/info, you can go to what is Embase and see the conference abstracts there. And let's take a look at back here on our advanced search. So to look for individual conference abstracts, so let's look for something like breast cancer, for example. And here's our field limits. In this case, actually, I'm trying to think of a particular, hang on a sec, it would be better to find a particular conference. So let me just go back to my session results just to get a good example for you, because we did have a conference search. And if I go to this one and I open up the record, then this is where you will see the conferences, so the conference name. So we have the 17th European Bioenergetics Conference. So if I copy that, I haven't tried searching for this one before, but it should work, I think. So if I pop that in there with the quote, single quotes, like this, and then I go to my field limits and I go to conference name. So I've now added that. So I want to look in this specific field, and then I do search. I should hopefully get some results. And I get 400 results. So these are all the abstracts from this conference now visible in Embase. So that's looking for a particular conference. If you wanted to look for conferences related to a particular area where something was indexed, for example, so this is our breast cancer example. And then if we go down here to our publication type, so I'm in the advanced search form again, and let's limit this to conference abstracts only and search. Then you see there are 21,000 conference abstracts from a variety of different conferences indexed with breast cancer in Embase. So I hope that answered your question sufficiently.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. I'm afraid that we've run out of time. So thank you again for your presentation, Anne-Marie. I'd also like to thank all of you for attending the webinar. Now, this was an introduction to Embase webinar, but we also provide more in-depth sessions throughout the year. We will be sending you a link to the webinar calendar. Please feel free to register for as many Embase webinars as you would like. We will also send you all the questions and answers that may have come up during this session. When you leave the session, a survey will pop up. Please fill out what your thoughts are regarding this webinar so that we can improve and meet your needs. Thanks again, and good luck for exploring Embase. Bye.